So with big tech slowly dying, by the way, let me explain why big tech is dying. There was something called the dot-com bubble. You used to be able to make a bunch of money running a website by just having like one banner ad at the top. And then people figured out all of a sudden that no one actually clicked banner ads and they were practically useless. And so there was a big crash because the ad-supported internet was a terrible investment. No advertisers weren't making any money, but no one seemed to learn anything. And so people kept doing ad supported internet stuff. But now the ads paid much less. So the only people who could make a bunch of money were people who operated large enough platforms that they could show everyone loads of ads. And more importantly, they could collect a bunch of user data and sell that to third party data brokers who would then target those ads at users because targeted ads perform better than non targeted ads. Um, and then simultaneously to this, you had this system of startup investor runway became strongly and firmly established, where companies would run on empty, burning investor money for years until they captured enough of a market um, in order to become essentially a monopoly. Then they would start cranking up their prices and squeezing users for everything they had. This process has sometimes been called enshittification, or the driver behind enshittification. Anyway, the reason the internet's getting much worse now is that everyone's on the final stage, because I don't know if you've noticed, but you used to go on websites like YouTube, the big popular websites, and you'd see ads for brands like Coca-Cola and stuff you've heard of. Do you remember that? Because now all you see is ads for scams instead. Because all of the big advertisers have realized that advertising on sites like YouTube and stuff is simply not worth the money and not worth the risk to their PR. There's been enough ad apocalypses and stuff like that no one wants to advertise on these websites anymore other than dodgy scam companies. And secondarily to that, uh, data data broking, data selling and harvesting is less profitable than it used to be, simply because uh, the number of new people accessing the internet was always going up. Every year, more people would access the internet than the year before. That is no longer the case. It was an S curve, right? And we're on the tail end of the S curve. Fewer new people gained internet access last year than they did the year before. It's starting to level out. And so there are no new users to tell advertisers about, or there are fewer new users to tell advertisers about. And advertisers already have the information on you and I, and so they don't want to buy it for as much money. It's much, more expensive. It's a higher value proposition to learn about an entirely new person than it is to learn some small detail about a person who already exists. Um, so there's no value being created in the tech sector anymore. Everything that was working isn't working anymore. And so pretty much everyone is pivoting to make your product as terrible as possible and then force people to pay a subscription to remove the terribleness, which sucks. And so the internet is going really bad. Internet go bad because of advertising no longer make money. Right. So, uh, but if you can just charge rent, right? If you can just charge rent to use your service, then you have infinite money forever. Has this ever actually worked? It worked for Netflix and those kinds of things, and that's what everyone's basing it off of, right? Anyway, uh, so you have all of the main social media platforms going to shit. Most of them don't even count as social media anymore. Like you look at what used to be popular compared to what's popular now. The only ones where people actually post are like Twitter and Tumblr. Like Instagram is just images, and no one really cares about the images anymore because they care about Instagram Reels, which is just TikTok. YouTube is just Tik. I mean, YouTube is YouTube. It doesn't really count as a social media platform. TikTok is TikTok. You just post images. Facebook is just AI generated images of Jesus now carrying an American flag that your grandma clicks like on and gets scammed. And I don't even know what the other social media platforms are that probably exist out there, but they all suck and no one wants to use them and no one's posting. And so the only ones left And no one can make a competitor to the video sites because hosting and streaming a bunch of online video is extremely expensive and takes a lot of infrastructure. So unless you already have that infrastructure for some reason, you can't really compete in that market with like YouTube or whatever. So they just kind of that's kind of just screwed. That's kind of just cooked. Uh, but text-based platforms, the few remaining ones, Tumblr and Twitter, they still exist, and it's fairly trivial to host a bunch of text. Even I do it. Denverchan.org. Uh, and so Twitter obviously going badly because of Elon Musk. There's been a bunch of other alternative social medias have been popping up. Right, you've got Mastodon, which is like Twitter if everyone was a lib. You've got Blue Sky, which is like Twitter if everyone was a lib. There's stuff like that. There's like TWTXT, which is like Twitter if no one used it. Uh, and really fascinatingly to me is this website called Cohost. Now, Cohost is a Tumblr clone, uh, but uh, all of the other alternative social media platforms, alternatives to some big giant tech company, they tend to have some sort of central systems based gimmick, right? Like Mastodon and Blue Sky, they're federated and decentralized. You can make your own instance. That's cool. You had stuff like BitChute, which was lying, but they claimed that they ran like a peer-to-peer system, or PeerTube, which is you can host your own instance. It's federated with the ActivityPub protocol. You have various like Odyssey, they give you some fake cryptocurrency. Pretty much every alternative social media platform tries to put some little gimmick into the systems that underlie the website itself in order to separate itself and try and actually solve the problems that the previous websites have had to middling success. But co-host is fascinating to me because they've just not done this. They've just been like, look, yeah, sure, we're operating the platform in a very similar way to Tumblr. I'm assuming Tumblr had some problem where there was a poorly implemented algorithmic feed, and so they're like, we're not going to do algorithms. Okay, cool, I guess. It doesn't really bother me. And then they're like, no ads and no tracking. Great. How are you going to make money? Oh, we're going to charge a subscription. That's not a good thing. That's not differentiating you from your cousins in big tech. That's just the same shit they're doing. You're just charging rent still. So no, what is their actual selling point? Their actual selling point is we are nice people. Unlike the people who run your big tech companies who are evil capitalist lizards, we are based anti-capitalist furries. And look, I'm all in support of based anti-capitalist furries, but let's just rewind the clock a little bit and remember that all of these original social media platforms basically did the same thing. Like Facebook was originally marketed as in the same way, like the underdog, uh, privacy respecting version of MySpace that wasn't run by a billionaire. Like that was literally the initial selling point of Facebook. It was like MySpace. There's all this bullshit on it. There's all these, it's all funding this billionaire in New Zealand, and there's all these companies on it. There's whatever. Facebook is just run by some guy, some random college student. It was made by some random college student. You only see your friends and your family. You just see what they post and that's it. Like that's what Facebook was originally designed for, and that's how they marketed themselves as like the down to earth alternative to MySpace. And look what Facebook became. So unless you build something into the systems of your website that is going to protect users, I'm sorry, I don't really care if you're a worker co-op. like, OpenAI. You remember OpenAI? I remember OpenAI. They're still around. They're a very big company. Uh, and there's a reason that they're called OpenAI, is that they were originally based free software advocates, or at least open source software advocates. They were like, everything's going to be open all the time. And then Microsoft came along and said, I will pay you $3 billion if you don't have it open no more and instead is ours. Now, look, I consider myself pretty committed to the ideals of free and open source software. But even I've got to admit, If Microsoft came along and was gonna pay me $3 billion, my ideals might falter. I'm just gonna be honest. I'm not a perfect person, right? If I could get $3 billion, that might challenge my commitments to my morals. I'm just gonna be real. Like, okay, anti-software software club, the people who run cohost, like you might be based leftist furries now who own the site as a worker co-op and don't take outside donations. You know, that's cool for now, for as long as that lasts. Okay, one, this company is not going to last. Either this company shuts down in 3 years because they can't make any money, or option two, they're sort of going to shut down in 3 years because they can't make any money, so they decide to be like, well, look, we need to continue operations, so we will do something sketchy in order to get investor money or whatever. Um, that's the other option. But the point being, frankly, I don't really care how your company is organized in the back end. You know, there are a million different ways to organize a company. You have like companies like Valve who are vaguely also, calling them a worker co-op is maybe a little bit overkill, but they do have a system where every employee uh, owns a stock in the business that they can't trade or sell, and one stock equals one vote, and so on. Like they're sort of close to a worker co-op, even though I wouldn't necessarily call them a worker co-op. And Valve is a fucking evil company. Like, look what Valve is doing to all their video games. Like, there's nothing about uh, being organized leftistly that means you can't do bad tech products. Uh, I would much prefer if you focused on having some systems in the actual user-facing side of your product that gave me confidence that this website wasn't going to be garbage, which you have not done. You've not done that. You've said there's not going to be any algorithms, so I can't find anything, and you're not going to show me any ads because in the future you're going to upcharge me for a subscription. No, 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 thank you. No, that doesn't. That's not a good proposition to me. I'm sorry. You seem like lovely people, co-host people. You seem chill. Anti-software club, but you go on their website. They're like, we hate the software industry, and we have all these rants about how evil Facebook and Uber is. And I'm like, yeah, they're evil. I gotta agree with you on that one. I'm not a big fan of those guys. But like, where's your systems? Where's your user facing systems? Last time I went on a rant about co-host in one of my podcasts, I uh, I said, what would be nice would be like if you could extend this leftistly-ness to the user base, like uh, some sort of user democracy to empower people. Because this is not federated. Like, this is they make it clear that they're purposefully putting everyone in one place, which is a bad idea. It's a bad idea. The internet was better when everyone wasn't in one place. Their argument is that there are like artists and people who depend on word of mouth, and so if everyone's on one place, it helps people make a career doing that. I'm suspicious of this. I feel like there were artists before. Um, I'm suspicious, but uh, and also like an interoperable federated system. I'm not a huge fan of that either, but at least they're trying. Uh, Let me just tell you about the best social media platform. Okay, what does a social media platform need? It needs somewhere to post. It needs some way to discover other people's posts. It needs some way to follow people who you want to see again, and maybe some way to DM or direct message or comment uh, on other people's posts. I think that those are the four things. Let's do it like that instead. Here's the four things that constitute a social media platform. And so what you want to do here, somewhere to post, you call that a blog. Some way to see other people's posts, you call that a web ring. Some way to follow people, you call that RSS or Atom. Some way to DM or comment, you call that email or IRC or whatever the fuck, right? Or a comment page on your website, or just making a blog post that starts with someone else's blog post. There's a million ways to do that. Email is the one that everyone already has, but no one uses for it because we somehow just let a bunch of corporations just co-opt the idea of email, which was a mistake. Anyway, that's my ideal social media platform. It's called the internet.